The observation lounge on the ISS Meridian was never meant to hold the entire engineering crew, but somehow they'd all crammed in for movie night, a sacred tradition that Captain Tours allowed once a week during long-haul missions through deep space. Lieutenant Kira Velsarin arrived late, as usual, having lost track of time while recalibrating the plasma injectors. She stood in the doorway, her purple skin flushed slightly from rushing through the corridors, her blonde hair still pulled back in the practical braid she wore during shifts. The room was packed. Every chair, every cushion, every available floor space was occupied by off-duty crew members settling in for a human classic film that the entertainment officer had selected. Something called The Princess Bride, which apparently was mandatory viewing for anyone who wanted to understand human culture. "Over here," called Lieutenant Chen from somewhere in the crowded space. Kira scanned the room, trying to locate the voice. She spotted most of her engineering team clustered near the main viewport, but there wasn't a single empty seat visible. "There's no room," she called back. "Sure there is," Chen gestured enthusiastically. "Marcus has plenty of room." Kira's eyes found Ensign Marcus Webb, the human propulsion specialist who transferred to the Meridian 6 months ago. He was sitting cross-legged on a large floor cushion near the front, a bowl of popcorn balanced on his knee. His sandy brown hair was disheveled from his shift, and he wore the comfortable off-duty clothes that made him look younger than his 28 years. Marcus looked up at the mention of his name, his hazel eyes meeting Kira's with an expression that clearly said, "I had nothing to do with this." "I'm not sitting on Marcus," Kira said firmly. "Why not? He doesn't bite." Chen was grinning like this was the most hilarious suggestion in the galaxy. "Come on, Velsarin," added Rodriguez from nearby. "Movie's starting in 2 minutes. You're blocking the door." Kira felt heat rising in her cheeks, a purple blush that was probably visible even in the dim lighting. The truth was, she'd been carefully avoiding being too close to Marcus for weeks now, ever since she'd realized that her feelings for the quiet, brilliant human engineer had shifted from professional respect to something decidedly unprofessional. But she was also blocking the door, and the movie really was about to start, and everyone was looking at her expectantly. "Fine," she said, trying to sound casual. "But this is ridiculous." She made her way through the crowded room, carefully stepping over legs and around chairs. Marcus had set aside his popcorn and was watching her approach with an expression she couldn't quite read. Nervousness, amusement, resignation. "Sorry about this," she muttered as she reached him. "I can just sit on the floor beside you." "There's no space and you'll block someone's view," Marcus said practically. He gestured to his lap with what was probably meant to be casual indifference. "It's fine, we're both adults." "It's just sitting. Just sitting. Right. Completely normal, professional sitting." Kira lowered herself gingerly onto his lap, trying to distribute her weight as evenly as possible, trying not to think about how solid he felt beneath her, trying to ignore the warmth radiating through their clothes. She perched as upright as possible, maintaining as much space between them as physics would allow. "Relax, Velsarin," Rodriguez called out. "You look like you're sitting on a cactus." "You look uncomfortable," Marcus said quietly, his voice close to her ear. "Here." Before she could protest, his hands settled on her waist, gently guiding her to lean back against his chest. The position was infinitely more comfortable and infinitely more intimate. "Better?" he asked. Kira's heart was hammering so hard she was certain he could feel it. Yes, thank you. The lights dimmed as the movie started. Kira tried to focus on the screen, on the opening scenes of this apparently legendary human film. But she was acutely aware of every point of contact between them, his chest against her back, his thighs beneath hers, his hands resting carefully on his own knees to avoid touching her inappropriately. It was just a joke, just an awkward seating arrangement caused by poor planning and an overcrowded room, nothing more, except Marcus's breathing had changed slightly. And she could feel tension in his body that hadn't been there initially. And oh no, Kira felt it, the unmistakable evidence that Marcus's body was responding to their proximity in a way that definitely wasn't just casual or professional. He went rigid beneath her, his breathing stopping altogether for a moment. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice tight with mortification. "I'm so sorry. I can't. It's not intentional." Kira's scientific mind cataloged the situation with clinical detachment that lasted approximately 3 seconds before her own body responded with a rush of heat that had nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with the fact that she'd been attracted to Marcus Webb for months and had been carefully pretending otherwise. "It's okay," she whispered back, proud that her voice was steady. "It's a natural physiological response, nothing to apologize for. I should leave, I can claim emergency or don't." The word came out more forcefully than she intended. Kira felt him freeze. "I mean, if you leave now, everyone will know something happened. Better to just stay. We can handle this like adults." "Adults," Marcus repeated, sounding slightly strangled. "Right, adults who are completely professional and not thinking about anything inappropriate at all." Despite everything, Kira felt a smile tugging at her lips. "Exactly, I'm just sitting here." "You're just sitting there. We're both watching the movie." "I have no idea what's happening in the movie." "Neither do I." They fell silent, but it wasn't the comfortable silence of before. It was charged, electric, full of things neither of them could say, with 40 other crew members surrounding them in the darkness. The movie played on, something about pirates and true love and adventure. Under different circumstances, Kira probably would have enjoyed it. Right now, she couldn't focus on anything except the man beneath her and the way her body seemed to be having opinions about their position that were completely inappropriate for a public setting. "Kira," Marcus whispered, so quietly she almost didn't hear it. He never used her first name on duty. The intimacy of it sent a shiver down her spine. "We need to talk about this, after, later, somewhere private." "Yes," she agreed immediately. His hands shifted slightly on his knees, and Kira realized he was fighting the urge to touch her. The knowledge sent another wave of heat through her system. This was torture. Exquisite, unbearable torture. The movie reached its midpoint. Around them, crew members laughed at jokes, quoted famous lines, threw popcorn at particularly dramatic moments. Chen made commentary about the fencing techniques. Rodriguez kept trying to explain plot points to confused non-human crew members. Kira and Marcus sat in their own bubble of tension, acutely aware of each other, carefully not moving, barely breathing. At some point during the climactic duel scene, Marcus's hand found hers in the darkness. His fingers threaded through hers, squeezing gently. It was such a simple gesture, but it felt monumental, an acknowledgement of something unspoken, a promise of conversations to come. Kira squeezed back. Finally, mercifully, the credits rolled. The lights came up gradually. Crew members stretched, debated the movie's finer points, began the slow process of clearing out. "That was amazing," Chen announced. "We should do The Empire Strikes Back next week." "Absolutely not," said Rodriguez. "It's my turn to pick, and we're watching Die Hard." As the crowd thinned, Kira stood carefully, immediately missing Marcus's warmth. He stood too, grabbing his jacket and holding it in front of himself in a gesture that would have been hilarious if Kira's heart wasn't pounding like a fusion reactor on overload. "Walk you back to your quarters?" Marcus asked, his voice deliberately casual for any listeners. "Please." They left together, maintaining proper distance, nodding goodnight to crew members who were heading in other directions. The corridors were quiet during night cycle, most personnel either at the movie or already in their quarters. They didn't speak until they reached a maintenance junction that was reliably empty during off hours, a fact Kira knew because she often came here to think during long shifts. Marcus stopped walking, turning to face her. His expression was a mix of embarrassment, desire, and something that looked like hope. "I should apologize again," he started. "That was—" "Don't." Kira stepped closer, emboldened by darkness and privacy and the memory of his body responding to hers. "Don't apologize for something I've been hoping would happen." Marcus stared at her. "What? You think I didn't notice?" Kira allowed herself a small smile. "You think I haven't been noticing everything about you for months? The way you explain propulsion theory like it's poetry. The way you always save me the good coffee from the morning pot. The way you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention." "I thought I was being subtle," Marcus said faintly. "You were too subtle. I thought maybe I was imagining it, projecting my own feelings onto yours." She took another step closer, close enough to touch. "But tonight there was no ambiguity." A laugh burst from Marcus, slightly hysterical, mostly relieved. No ambiguity at all. I'm mortified, but also glad. Is that wrong?" To be glad that my complete lack of physical control finally forced this conversation we've been avoiding. Not wrong. Kira reached up, touching his face gently. "We've been dancing around this for months, being professional, maintaining boundaries, pretending we're just colleagues. Maybe it took something ridiculous to push us past all that. Something ridiculous like the entire engineering crew conspiring to make you sit in my lap." Marcus's hand came up to cover hers. "You know Chen definitely planned this, right? He's been making pointed comments about us for weeks." "I know, he's not subtle either." Kira's thumb traced Marcus's cheekbone. "Does this mean we're done pretending? God, I hope so." Marcus turned his head slightly, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Because pretending not to be completely infatuated with you has been the hardest thing I've done since joining this crew." "Infatuated," Kira's heart soared. "Absolutely gone," Marcus confirmed. "Have been since you explained plasma dynamics to me using only hand gestures and completely incorrect culinary metaphors during that emergency repair. Those metaphors worked. They were terrible. You compared magnetic containment to making a souffle." But he was smiling, his eyes warm. "It was also the moment I realized I was in serious trouble. I realized during the Delta Station layover," Kira admitted. "You spent your entire shore leave helping me find that specific Zelathi tea blend I mentioned once in passing. You visited 11 shops." 12, but who's counting?" Marcus's free hand found her waist, drawing her closer. "So what do we do now? There are fraternization regulations, protocol for reporting relationships between crew members, required notifications to the captain." We handle it properly. We file the forms, we notify tours, we follow every regulation to the letter. Kira smiled. Tomorrow, right now, I just want to acknowledge that this is real, that we're both feeling this, that I'm not alone in. Marcus kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, seeking permission. Kira granted it enthusiastically, her arms wrapping around his neck, her body pressing against his. The kiss deepened, months of restraint and longing pouring into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for so long. Then do it again. He did, slower this time, savoring it. Kira felt like every nerve ending was alive, singing, celebrating the fact that this brilliant, kind, wonderfully awkward human engineer wanted her as much as she wanted him. Your quarters or mine? Marcus asked against her lips. Yours are closer. They made it approximately 3 steps before Marcus stopped again, pulling back slightly. Wait, I need to say this properly, not just. I don't want you to think this is just physical, that I just want. Marcus. Kira cupped his face in both hands. I know, I feel it too. This is more than attraction. It's been building for months, every conversation, every shared shift, every moment of connection. Whatever this is, it matters. You matter. The relief in his expression made her chest ache. You matter to me too, so much. Sometimes I'd be working on a problem and I'd think I need to tell Kira about this before remembering we weren't, that we hadn't. We have now. She kissed him again, brief and sweet. And we will properly talk about what this means, what we want, how to navigate being together on the same ship. But first, I think we've earned the right to just be together, without protocol or professionalism or 40 witnesses. Best idea you've had all day. Marcus took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. Come on, my quarters have better tea. You bought more of the Zelathi blend? I may have purchased enough to last the rest of the mission. He grinned at her surprised expression. I'm an optimist. As they walked through the quiet corridors, hand in hand, Kira felt something settle in her chest. Joy, certainty. The knowledge that sometimes the best things come from the most ridiculous circumstances, like a crowded movie night and an awkward seating arrangement that forced 2 people to stop hiding what they felt. It had started as a joke, an accident, an unfortunate physiological response. But it had become something real, something worth the paperwork, worth the crew's inevitable teasing, worth every complication that came with dating a crewmate. Because Marcus Webb, brilliant human engineer with terrible metaphors and a heart big enough to search 12 shops for tea, was absolutely worth it. And judging by the way he looked at her as they reached his quarters, he felt exactly the same way.